It all began with a road trip. It was the spring of 1969. Millie Ristvedt sat in the back seat of her friend's car as they drove through the streets of downtown Toronto, 6 hours to Montreal. Ristvedt was struck by the angular and elongated shapes of the new multi-lane highway and the blurred landscape. The artist became inspired. When Ristvedt returned to the Toronto studio she shared with friend and mentor artist Jack Bush, she began work on a series of 10 large paintings. The highway paintings, as they came to be known, recalled the images she'd seen on her impromptu road trip. Ristvedt created a stunning series of paintings that remarkably were lost for 50 years. They were never exhibited until now. This is the story of what happened to those paintings. Born in British Columbia, Millie Ristvedt attended the Vancouver School of Art, now the Emily Carr University. She recalls one particular artist and instructor, Roy Kiyuka. A gifted poet, musician, and painter, Kiyuka was instrumental in introducing Ristvedt to most of the artists who would influence her. Like Kiyuka, Millie was a colorist, focused on exploring the creative potential of color. She later completed a Master of Art History at Queen's University. In 1964, Ristvedt moved east to Toronto, where the art scene was more vibrant and experimental. The first years in Toronto were tough. Ristvedt slept on friends' couches, worked as a legal secretary, and modeled for art class. Finally, in 1967, armed with a government grant, she had enough money to begin serious painting. By 1968, she and her artist friends were making headlines in the Toronto art scene. They wanted to be known simply as artists, not female artists, viewed as an unnecessary label. Ristvedt had already held 2 solo exhibitions for her color form and her shaped paintings at the prestigious Carmen Lamanna Gallery. Encouraged by Jack Bush, who recognized the importance of the highway paintings, Ristvedt rolled up 2 of them and took them to Lamanna. He was dismissive and said he didn't care for them. The highway paintings were never exhibited. Ristvedt stored them away. In the fall of 1969, Ristvedt began to work on her ribbon paintings. She says she'd fallen in love with using raw canvas, an idea inspired by the American abstract artist Morris Louis, a prominent member of the Washington Color School. But Ristvedt was ready to leave Toronto. In 1970, she moved to live and work in Montreal with a fellow artist. She was one of 14 artists who helped create Véhicule Art Inc., the first artist-run center in the city. Ristvedt also had a solo exhibition. Millie Ristvedt decided to return to Eastern Ontario in 1976. For the last 45 years, she has continued to explore the power of color and form in her work. Ristvedt has held more than 50 solo exhibitions, won countless awards including the Queen's Diamond Jubilee Medal, and exhibited throughout North America and Europe. She is considered to be a master abstract colorist. Art critic Barry Lord from Art in America declared that Ristvedt's paintings were more insistent than Bush, more consciously structured than Molinari. Recently, while rummaging through her studio, Millie Ristvedt discovered 8 rolled canvases. The highway paintings, lost for 50 years, had been found. Millie Ristvedt created 10 paintings in the highway collection. The first two were rejected because they were not up to her standards. They were painted using the same glazing method as the shaped paintings. The hard edges appear crisper because of the contrasting palette and the intersecting elongated shapes. Both the darker palette, inspired by the earthy spring landscape, and the dynamic formal relationships were a departure for Ristvedt. No one was painting like this in Toronto at the time. So why didn't the highway paintings appeal to Carmen Lamanna? They were very different from Millie's previous work. Ristvedt thinks perhaps he saw them as abstractions of the landscape. He was only interested in pure abstraction. Perhaps he didn't like the sharper edges or the darker palette. These paintings were truly unique in 1969. Avant-garde. What impact might they've had if the world had seen them? With decades of hindsight, we can now appreciate their exquisite mastery of color and dynamic form. Until now, only a few people had seen them: Jack Bush, Carmen Lamanna, Leslie Jones, and Yvonne Lamerick. Until now.
For me, it's always exploration. It's not about actually the discovery or reaching the goal. It's always a process, a dynamic process. You need to find every way to keep yourself off balance. I mean, I've been doing this for 50 some odd years, and I hope to have a few more good years left. And I'm going to continue doing that because it keeps things moving, it keeps me moving, it's a way of presenting challenges to myself.